I made 100 players survive together on separate floating islands in the clouds. On one side, we have the Nightmare Island, and on the other, the Dream Island. Each team will have 3 beacons granting positive potion effects, and if all 3 beacons are broken, players are switched to hardcore mode, meaning they can't respawn. Can these players gear up in time to fight off an oncoming threat and claim their spot in the skies as the best fantasy island? Let's find out. As players flooded their newfound islands, they took in the terrain. Large temples, mountains, and crop fields flooded the valley, giving players the opportunity to get amazing gear. One player on each team was given their 3 beacons to place. On the Dream side, one survivor was granted that responsibility, and for the Nightmare team, Ryan. Upon placing each beacon, your team is granted the effects of haste, speed, and lastly, absorption. However, they only work on your island, so you have to be careful when crossing the void. Of course, Ryan placed his beacons a solid 4 blocks from each other, which could either be very good for defending it, or very bad if they were rushed before they were ready. I seriously think the lack of brain cells in my friends rivals my own. However, that's not near as bad as one survivor trying to place the beacons in a covered location. I don't know if you know how beacons work, but they can't be placed under any blocks. Oh, but it gets much worse from there. This man later tried to put it at the top of the temple and fell off of it. I don't understand what he was going for with this jump, but I'm sure he'll explain it in his own video. The worst part is that he was permanently dead. See, if all 3 beacons are placed, players are set to survival mode until all of them are broken. However, since Survivor didn't place any of them, he eliminated himself from the entire round, causing me and everyone in the call to make fun of him for the entire length of this event. Are you stupid? While that was going on, players found the cave systems that introduced all of the ores, ranging from coal to diamonds. Obviously, every player's goal was to get full diamond, but what they didn't know was that at the top of a mountain laid a netherite block. Imagine being able to rush the other team in the strongest armor in the game. It would be an advantage for sure, especially if the other team didn't know about it. However, what each team struggled with the most was enchants. Believe it or not, it is possible for each island to get an enchantment table, with obsidian and books being able to be found. However, one player on the Nightmare team found the only water source on their island and took 1 bucket from it for himself, then with his smart thinking removed all of the other water sources. Now, if he decides to hold this water hostage, he might be able to rule with an iron fist, but I doubt anyone's gonna let that happen, since shortly after that, players caught on and began to confront him. The center meeting hall of the Nightmare Island became perfect land for a small brawl amongst teammates. Thankfully, they have absorption, so no matter how long this fight lasted, I can't imagine anyone went below 9 hearts. However, this most likely won't be the last fight over something as simple as water. Over on the Dream team, things were moving along nicely. Almost every player had mined themselves full diamond armor and have gotten in line for a turn at enchanting. As we can already tell, this team is a bit more organized, even if their beacon placer fell to his death in the first 30 seconds. We can see them stacking up much faster, probably meaning that they will be the first to cross the void, which in my mind gives them a huge advantage over the brawling Nightmare team. Although it seems that some players were able to acquire obsidian and craft their own enchantment table on this team. However, that time difference could cost them a valued head start, most likely already given to the Dream team. Especially when we come back to the Dream team discovering the hidden netherite block. A man by the name of Sexy Mascot discovered the signs that told him to subscribe to WelcominTV, which now that I remember is a good idea. I'm trying to reach 400,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you want to help out, go ahead and turn that red button gray. Anyway, back to this man big braining the signs and finding a full block of netherite. I wonder if he is going to go over to the other team in full netherite alone or share it with his teammates. Back with the Nightmare squad, we see a few players chase around that derp though, the man with the water. I guess his teammates got sick of his antics and revolted against him, causing a very long fight. Although it seemed like nothing would come out of it, no one even died. Why did I have to make it so that they had absorption? Anything else would have given me footage. Stupid. Oh, I'm still recording. So while those useless antics proceeded, 2 players found the other hidden netherite block on the Nightmare team. That means we'll be able to see netherite clashing fights, and since this team had 2 people find it, we will more than likely see 2 players rocking the gear. As battle neared, I visited the Dream team to come discover that they had already started their trek across the endless void. 4 members had gone more than 200 blocks without detection and are now about to face the Nightmare Island. However, there was one player who happened to see them before anyone else. The bridge is still an easy point of death, and this man used it to his advantage, taking out not 1, not 2, but 3 players on the Dream team before falling victim to the void as well. A true trooper. However, since there were plenty of Dream members already there, they made it to the island safe and sound. With the beacons less than 100 blocks away, the only thing between them and victory was a mountain hike. Spaceball was the first player to reach the top and ended up mining all 3 of the Nightmare team's beacons, officially disabling their respawn. We've now entered hardcore mode. The The small amount of Dream players on the Nightmare Island were able to launch a mass attack, allowing more Dream members to join the fight from across the way. This ended in casualties where naked men were taking out full Diamond players on the island's edge. The numbers were falling fast, with only 30 Nightmare members remaining. A battle of its own broke out at the island's entrance, with teammates and enemies clashing left and right. The main Nightmare players were all previously distracted with the beacon break and chasing down the offenders, so most players were being taken out for running around willy-nilly solo. But when the reinforcements landed, it created the most chaotic fight I had ever seen. We even got to see the amazing clash of armor from two netherite guys. Although that didn't win the Nightmare team any points, as more and more players were dropping like flies, and I saw small hope in some eyes as they tried their best to escape the massacre by attempting to make it over to the Dream Island, either in hope of a beacon break or just a relief from the endless fighting. The Nightmare team's numbers dwindled fast as players dropped to the void or simply died to being outgeared. And those who fled to the other islands, such as this full netherite guy, literally ended up getting punched off the map by a naked man. He had no armor and successfully took out one of the most geared players of the round. It didn't stop there. Many more Nightmare team players were forced off the map for mistakenly putting their trust in a 1x1 bridge. At this point, only 7 more members remain, and it wasn't looking good, as those remaining players met the same fate as teammates before, leaving one final player left standing. I do not know how Plugaloon lasted so long in this battle, but props to them for being able to shock me and stay alive in a 50v1. It may not have lasted long, but the effort speaks for itself, although their death leaves the Dream team left standing victorious over the skies, winning round 1. But we're not done yet. Now that players were more used to the map, I expect to see a much shorter round. However, with one win under the Dream team's belt, those players might have an upper hand. I once again gave the 3 beacons to Orion, who I pray this time will separate them out so his team won't lose. As for the Nightmare team, I granted the privilege to Cornker, a man we all know well, and we almost love him in every single event. I wish he was a pacifist in all of them, but this time I think he fights. Let's see what mistakes he will make with the beacons. And as the stern temporary leaders placed down their high-valued items, players had already taken to the caves. The fastest players to gear up and cross the void have the highest likelihood of success. This time, I wanted to see the Nightmare team bridge out first, but instead it ended up being the Dream team once more. But they were already off on a huge bridge to take on the Nightmare Island. However, they may be met with some struggle, as the beacons won't be 6 feet apart this time. Once making it in range of the island, Ryan and his few teammates were met with more than a welcoming party. Get it? Getting onto the island was a struggle, but somehow naked players were still able to void full Diamond players. But the success didn't last long, as tons of players targeted the intruders, leading to a failed push. That left some Nightmare members the chance to cross the bridge unharmed. It would be great to see a complete role reversal. They infiltrated the island and were instantly bombarded with fists, swords, pretty much everything. However, their teammates were not too far behind. Somehow a player by the name of Nixie, who was originally bombarded with players, seemed to pass them all by and be in a fight with Ryan and Survivor. However, Survivor was naked and Ryan can't PvP apparently, so Nixie was free and clear to take out the beacon. And while that happened, the other 2 beacons were broken on the Dream team, meaning in the span of about 15 seconds, all of the beacons had been broken and they no longer can respawn. Players started getting taken out left and right. With them not having a coherent team, no one was really together, allowing the Nightmare team to pair up and take out players one by one. At that point, only 20 players remained, and I think I found them all. The rest of the Dream team were stationed at the mines, not even realizing what was happening. It looks like they were still gearing up when all of the beacons were broken out of nowhere, and now they just have to fight off an onslaught of incoming players. If they don't stick together, this will be the Dream team's first loss. Lil ZJ was the first to start the fight against the cave dwellers, drawing them out of their home and across the map, allowing many groups of Nightmare players to merge at the cave and take out players one by one. There were still a few small groups getting kills, but most of the death was steaming from the Dream team. Even in an all-out brawl, players were split up from their friends in favor of escape just to further the defeat of the Dream team. At this point, it's already a 5v50 and the 50 have infinite lives. Take that as you will, but I'll just say bodies were dropping as fights concluded around the town. 2 players made it to a bridge and started running across, while of course being chased close behind by the entire Nightmare team. Dino was able to knock off one, while his teammate Plugaloon could not do the same and for some reason mine themselves out of the world. Dino, being the last one left, just walked off. I don't make these things up. The man just walked off the bridge, meaning the Nightmare team has 1 win on the board. It all comes down to the last round to see what team deserves their place amongst the stars. The last and final round, one team shall take the W. Now, with everyone knowing the map, things could go even faster this time. Players were instantly in the mines getting tools to gather up netherite blocks. Little did they know that this block will actually respawn after 10 minutes, so they really don't have to rush. And if the round takes a bit longer, we could see a lot of full netherite players towards the end of this. I gave the beacons of this round to Ryan once more on the Dream Team, and for the Nightmare, Lit Gamer, another man well known in my events. So far, Ryan has been the hindrance for these teams as he has lost both rounds and had been in control of the beacons for each loss, so giving them to him might have been a bad idea. Lit Gamer finished off his beacon placing first. Take it, they are pretty close to each other, but they do seem very defendable. The Dream Team's beacons, however, are more spread out. Could this lead to another beacon wipe since they will have little knowledge on the status of their beacons across the board, or could it finally end up helping them make different outposts surrounding the beacons? By the time I even checked on the caves, we already saw many players in full diamond, so I'm expecting a bridge to be built very soon. Okay, well, I was right. My man's is solo bridging across Neverland. However, his team did show up to support him. Ever notice how the Dream Team is the only team to build the full way? What the heck does the Nightmare team have against the Void? Does it scare them or something? Okay, I can see how that might after all the death they'd had experienced with it. Speaking of them, they actually have a defense ready for once. They finally are expecting the play from the Dream Team and are here to stop it. The Dream players rushed in in hopes to be completely ignored by the enemy. Some made it through the lines but won't be making it very far as security had been beefed up for the final round. Vin, being one of the only men to have survived the bridge onslaught, had made it to one of the beacons but was unfortunately 3v1'd and chased away. In that time, a member of the Nightmare team started skybasing all the way back to the spawn island. I don't know the idea behind this, but if he makes it, we might reward him, who knows. It is Conquer after all. He has an unknown mindset, so I'm sure there's a goal behind this plan. With members all back to gearing up after the bridge fight, things seemed a little silent. All until Lil ZJ was able to make it onto the Dream Island and out-parkour their members to get the first beacon of the round. That means that the Dream Team had just lost one of their positive potion effects, Speed, literally the worst one to lose in this situation. He continued his conquest in hopes to get another one, but was met with much struggle. In that time, the bridge had become a complete and utter mess. People constantly trying to cross with or without gear. It was really just watching a bunch of randoms fall into the void and have to re-gear themselves once again. This just reminds me of Bed Wars. Oh, the flashbacks. With that madness going on, Ryan had found a secret bridge in which he was to travel the entire way to the Nightmare Island undetected. Without his whereabouts known, he might be able to sneak past security to the back of the island and solo all of the beacons. It would be a great redemption arc for him since he's basically fumbled the bag the entire time when it comes to his team's beacons. But while that happened, another blue beacon had fallen. That means the last beacon to stand on the Dream Island is the one at the shops. Hopefully they can defend it well, since the one that just broke was done by two super sneaky naked players who had no right being this awesome. And if somehow the last one falls to another sneak attack, we'll see another team enter hardcore mode before it's been anyone's time to shine. Back with Ryan, he met up with the teammate to take out the beacons, but little did he know a netherite man was in the mix. Thankfully, he took to his teammate instead of Ryan, a worthy sacrifice for Ryan to break his first ever beacon. No one had seemed to notice either, and he moved on to take out the second beacon. And again, no one had even seen, so he was able to take out all 3 nightmare beacons without a scratch. How could they let that happen to a man in full gold nonetheless? That's just embarrassing. But turning off the Nightmare team's respawn isn't even the craziest thing that's about to happen. I went back to check on the last remaining beacon on the Dream side, and one survivor was a millisecond from breaking it. He wasn't able to get it that time and ended up being fought off. But with enough team interference, he was able to backtrack and barely break the beacon in time. Meaning every single beacon on all teams were gone, so the entire event is in hardcore mode. Now it was an all-out brawl, diamonds and netherites clashing back and forth to take out each other's team count. At one point, a Nightmare Netherite man was slain, giving the Dream Team another set of the best possible gear. This continued as the Dream Team grouped up around GP Man to take out as many people as possible, slowly forming their own Netherite posse, making them some of the most feared players on the island. Literally, look, this man tried to take them on and was completely pushed off the map. I don't even know if it's possible to beat them anymore. They even just bullied another Netherite man around the bridge, and they were not letting up. This is just a brutal 10v1 over here. Checking in across both maps, I see Conquer has made it to spawn. I decided to give him some stuff since he was, well, the wild card. I geared him up with netherite, food, and enchants just to see if he can make a difference in the game, as the Dream Team is already dominating the players. All of the spectators even decided to grant him an elytra to get back, so yes, I may have made him a little bit overpowered, but let's just see how this goes down. With Korn's team down men, I figured this was a bit fair, until he dive bombed a blue player and caused his death, making the turns table to a 9v9. He continued his strat on GP man, constantly going back and forth for hits on the man, just doing this thing over and over. It was really funny to watch. However, when he went in for the real fight, it was an absolute massacre and he had to escape. Although I think we've just activated the main character, slowly leading his team to take out players one by one, until everything went wrong. He left his team and mistakenly put on his elytra. GP man was able to crit him out and take all of the most coveted gear. With this turn, we could easily see the fall of the Nightmare team, especially with the constant disappearance of the Netherite players. And of course, GP Man's intervention. I feel like he has become the Dream Team's leader for this round, with possibly the most kills and the best gear. After witnessing an absolute battle, the Dream Team is dominating the leftover competition. However, there are only 2 players left that I believe can save the Nightmare squad, and that is Spaceball, the MVP of the first round and the first player to solo a team's beacons, and then Lit Gamer, an OP player from past events and apparently one you'll have gotten to love. Although their teammates, or what was left of them, were popping fast, with the fall of Toxicity and Pugaloon. Meaning we are now seeing a 2 versus 6. Can 2 Netherite players take out the entirety of the Dream Team, especially when they still have GP Man on their side? I guess we'll find out. The first fight we see is a surprise attack on Vin and Nut, almost instantly taking out Vin as Nut escaped. The only way these two can do this is if the other team does not group up, otherwise they're absolute toast. The next victims to 2v2 were Drip Test and Flaming Torch, but while Spaceball separated from Lit, he was 2v1 by GP Man and his teammate. Lit was in a dire situation but somehow survived long enough for Spaceball to assist him and actually take out GP Man, the only player who had any hope of taking out these 2 murderers. Now it was a 3v2 and Lit was so confident he just started flying into players, aka Mr. Nut, taking him out quicker than I can even commentate about it, leaving a 2 versus 2 situation. However, I feel like we know where this will go. Mr. Flaming Torch stood absolutely no chance and fell as well, leaving 1 remaining player on the Dream Team. A man who had boxed himself in on the bridge, but that didn't scare Lit as he had an elytra and balls of steel. He took off with his flight and found the man only to punch him into the void as well, meaning the 2 versus 6 I mentioned earlier had ended in the favor of the 2. The final score at the very end was 2-1 in favor of the Nightmare team, and the MVPs of this event were for sure Spaceball, Lit Gamer, and Poke. Each player showed their skills by either taking out all 3 beacons, soloing an army, or taking out full Netherite players while being completely naked. If you wish to participate in future videos like this one and want a chance at the MVP spots, join the Discord down below, as well as like the video and subscribe. You already know the drill. Thank you all so much for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.